Hello, and welcome back to another WhiskAYE podcast, number 30 this time. As always, as yet untitled, because we like to make an unrelated title that's related to what we've said in some way that most people will never decipher.
And we haven't got to voiceover editing yet.
Yeah. Really, realistically, we should do this intro at the end, but we'll be drunk by then.
Yeah, and his editor's lazy.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. He does more than me. But this time round, we are having a wonderful time. It's like our 30th episode, or actually our 30th main episode, and it's a special, really, because as much as it's the same Dram Team content that we always make, this time, just for Josh, it's the spectrum of smoke. So,
from unacceptable to unpalatable.
Yeah.
And everything in between.
Now, the card given to us by Dram Team says, "Fuck you, Josh." Oh, wait, I must have a special one. No, it says, "One of the most divisive style factors in whiskey. Smoke is loved passionately by many and reviled by plenty. But between sweet, smoke-free Speysides and peat monster Islas lies a diverse spectrum of smoke that we believe offers something surprising for everyone to enjoy. In this box, we traverse a peaty pathway that aims to delight both trepidatious peat toe dippers and full-blown smokeheads alike. Happy exploring, Dram Teamers. Slange." So, you looking forward?
To the end, yes.
I don't see any of the, peat bombs.
No, there's not. There isn't Nyla there.
Yeah.
Which is what we got. Speyside Highland. Is that Lomond a Highland?
I mean, the first one called himself a Highland. Loch Lomond's a Lowland.
I think it's on the border, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hard to say.
So it probably calls itself a Highland.
Draw the line to Loch Lomond, so.
Yeah, it probably calls itself a Highland.
Yeah.
Then we've got a couple not from. Oh no, we have got an Isla. The last one's an Isla.
Well, yeah, but it's not.
It's not one of the two big boys now. Lagavulin or the Freak. I can't remember how we do this because it's been a while since we've.
Well, usually it would be you up to introduce the next whiskey.
Well, let's book the trend because this is one of your favourites. So I'll allow.
This is one of my all-time favourite whiskies coming up here, and I'm very glad to have a chance to talk about it whilst drinking it on the podcast. This is from the Benromach. It's the Chateau Cisac wood finish. Doesn't say what year, but it's fine. The card says, "Not all great peated whiskey comes from Islay. While most people associate Speyside whiskies with a rich, sweet, non-smoky style, a handful, like Benromach, use peat smoke sparingly to create a unique flavour profile. This lightly peated malt was finished in a Bordeaux red wine casks from the illustrious Haute Medoc vineyard." Is that how you say that?
Vineyard.
No, but the one before that.
Yeah, I don't know, but I can tell you it's vineyard.
It's vineyard in French, surely, but why is there an E? I don't know. Chateau Cisac, anyway.
Yeah, I don't know, because French people are silly, aren't they?
Yeah. What I would say is, as it says here, Benromach sort of straddle. They're like very much on the outskirt of what you would call Speyside. So they're along the coast a bit from Elgin, which is like at the top of Spey, the River Spey sort of, and Speyside is the ones that are dotted around in a sort of bulb around a circle with its top at the Elgin and down.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they variously, I believe they call themselves Highland, but Speyside is part of Highland, so that's understandable. And maybe because they have a little bit of the peat, that's why they use that moniker, just to try not to get people writing angry letters saying, "I thought you were a Speyside."
Take your peat out of here.
Yeah. So anyway, on the nose, you should be getting the influence of the Bordeaux cask, which should be immediately apparent, with melon notes, red apples, zesty orange peel, and dark chocolate.
Orange peel. Yeah, there's kind of that tanginess,
I'm just pouring mine in.
that zestiness.
I've went for more glasses to try and avoid the cross contamination because we know how smoke
Peat
can
does
hang
linger.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
a,
chocolatiness there, maybe.
yeah, it sort of has a kind of a spicy, like a mulled wine kind of vibe.
It's like a spicy, but it's almost like a creamy smell at bits.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if that's what they mean
I
by.
actually sort of get what they mean by red apples. I can't remember what my favourite type of red apple is, but it definitely has what's it called? Macintosh. It has a
That's a good shout.
Macintosh scent.
Yeah, we'll one up them. We'll one up them. We'll take your
Yeah.
red apples. Macintosh apples on the nose.
Yeah.
With chocolate.
So they have they're very crisp, but like they're quite fleshy, so that makes them feel kind of creamy. I don't know if that's where it's coming from, but
Yeah, not very sharp, are they?
no.
All right. So what should I be tasting?
On the palate, there should be slightly peppery with sweet vanilla, creamy milk chocolate, but satisfying hints of red wine tannins, complementing a lingering peat smoke. I can't read today.
Well, you haven't had any whiskey yet, neither.
Yeah, maybe I'll get better. Then on the finish, there should be deeper hints of bonfire ambers, complemented by Brazil nuts and gorgeous cocoa flavors. All right, Brazil nuts.
Damn, our Macintosh apple point has gone. Yeah, I
know
mean,
we all know. Well, me and you both know that this has a heavy tannin influence.
I can say
why I love it.
That's where I'm coming from straight away. The tannins are all over this. There is a little bit of peat in the background, but it's not enough to go overpower it. It is quite sweet, and it starts off quite light, but then it does get a little bit peppery. But initially, it's quite gentle, and then the pepperiness kicks in.
Definitely, the flavors in this from the Chateau Cisac cask, like they hide the peat a lot. Because like peat also has a kind of drying effect on your mouth, but the wine tannins massively override that. And to the point that it, but there's definitely a little bit of a smokiness. I wouldn't say it's a heavy flavor in it. It just has that kind of.
No, it's got that. Only do like a really light peat though, don't they?
Yeah, it's like small numbers of ppms, like single digits. So.
Yeah, I thought it was like 10% of the barley they use is peat or something like that.
Yeah.
So they use a mix. I can't remember if that's Benwood Mac or not, but I thought it was.
Yeah, I think
so that's how they do it. But yeah, no, I mean, it's I don't know. I'd struggled. I guess it is, but I'd struggled to call it a peated whiskey.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones where peat isn't the. As with most Benwood Mac releases, peat isn't.
I think every Benwood Mac release uses peated whiskey.
Yeah, but what I mean is that peat isn't like the main attraction.
No,
it's part of the heritage that they.
It's almost like instead of being a peated whiskey that they add the tannins and that to differentiate it from other peated whiskies, it's a red wine whiskey that they add the peat to differentiate it from other red wine whiskies.
Almost, yeah.
It's that way round. I mean, it can't be that peated because I've got a bottle of it.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Well, this is the only one I think you bought a bottle of at a distillery, isn't it?
Yeah, probably. I've also had another bottle of it since. I'm into that bottle.
I don't know if they still make it.
That's part of why I'm only into that bottle and haven't finished that bottle because I'm worried.
See, if we go to the Benwood Mac website, I'm pretty sure they don't because they revamped the range. Are you of drinking age? Yeah, for quite a while now, unfortunately, Ben. Where are you? UK.
Pushing for old enough to have a drinking age child. So.
Yeah, well, if we go for where I'm from, I could have had like a drinking age grandchild probably.
Yeah.
No. They don't. But they have got like a peat smoke sherry cask matured. They got a peat smoke. They got the organic. That was quite nice. I remember having that when we were there.
Yeah. They had a whole lot of chat about how it was difficult to get the organic label and what counts and what doesn't count. So obviously, which I believe we've had a whiskey talk about.
We have. I mean, if you wanted to replace it, you could just go get the 40-year-old.
Yeah, how much is that?
£1,500.
Probably worth every penny.
A couple of them a month, you'd be all right.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to see if they say malted with a little peat smoke to our exact specifications. Who was it? There was one of them on that English whiskey festival that said they didn't mill their barley.
Meaning
that they just used it unmilled. They didn't grind it down.
Fair enough, I suppose.
Yeah, and they were like, you don't have to. You can do it in all. And it's like, because that's the advantage that English whiskey has got. Yeah, I mean that's the advantage that English whiskey's got. Scotch whiskey has got some really stringent rules, which is why Scotch is generally held up as the best whiskey in the world. Yeah. But it does mean that you can't experiment quite as much as English whiskey.
Yeah.
Now English whiskey is still not as good as Scotch by a long way, but you do get some interesting experiments,
which is part of the fun.
So I was having my last sip. That is a nice whiskey.
Are you ready to do some scores?
Yes. Would you like to go first?
I want to go with a 5, but I'm going to go with a 4.5 because I know that it's not. I know that there is. It's just a very, very good whiskey to me.
1.5 is strong. I'll go for a 4. Yeah. I like it, but I like it a lot. 4 is a good score, but not quite as much as you. I think we know. Yeah. Both love sherried whiskies. Both like tannins. You like tannins more than me. Both like. Actually, you don't like saltiness much in your whiskey, do you?
I don't mind it.
Whereas I really like it. So.
I prefer it more in a sherried whiskey because it comes out like salted caramel rather than.
Yeah. It's when it's in a peated whiskey that it gets terrible. It's like, oh, it's coastal. No, it's not.
Tastes like burnt seaweed. Cool. Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers. Drinking pond water.
Yeah. Okay. Want to move on? It's good for you to get this one with your.
With my long cultural heritage tied me to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm still. No, I think they have done one that I really liked. I was going to say I've been praying. So if for long-time listeners, you'll already know that this is Loch Lomond.
Yeah.
And it's the Open Special Edition 2021. So the card says, a delightfully gentle peat smoke underlies this Loch Lomond single malt. A highly versatile distillery, Loch Lomond can create a wide variety of flavours and styles, including various peat smoke levels. This particular dram was created in partnership with Colin Montgomery, Scottish pro golfer and Loch Lomond ambassador. A combination of spirits from both their unique straight neck and traditional pot stills was aged in 3 types of American oak cask before a finish in virgin oak. And on the nose, you should be getting caramel and toffee, poached pear, red apple with fresh vanilla.
I'm getting some kind of it's like a cooked fruit.
Yeah,
poached
caramelized
sort of.
Poached pear is lovely if you do it like with vanilla. It's really nice.
Interesting that big. Golf feels to me like the only sport where you could be also an ambassador of hard liquor.
An athlete who's also Can you imagine like Lewis Hamilton or whatever?
Yeah, Cristiano Ronaldo.
I always have a shot of this before I go on the track.
These peak physical specimens being like, I just like to get absolutely smashed on whiskey.
It'd be great, when Ronaldo did it with the water bottle. He got rid of the Coke. It'd be great if he just pulled up like a bottle of whiskey.
Yeah.
Instead of aqua. Agua.
Yeah.
Yeah, this has got loads of blooming caramelized sugar and caramel and toffee on the nose, hasn't it?
Yeah. But it does have that fruit in there, so.
That's a lovely smelling whiskey.
It's hard, sort of. I'm not getting any smoke on this again, so.
No. I'm going to put heaps, because I think that's the word they use, heaps of caramel and cooked fruit on the nose.
Yeah.
That's gorgeous smelling whiskey. So if you want to go for a dive in, on the palate, you should get chewy toffee, and the red apple on the nose has now turned into a green apple. Apricot jam and lemon citrus, and the finish is a toasted oak with gentle smokiness, and then warming oak spice of cinnamon and clove.
That's actually quite very mellow.
That is very mellow. I can't get any peat from that.
There's like a slight smokiness to the flavor, maybe, but it's it's
very,
more
very
like
light.
It's again more like,
like 8 parts per million.
Flame grilled than more than smoked, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm wondering if I'm getting smoke. It's giving it that kind of smoke sweetness in the background. There's definite. I get the apple, definitely.
I'm getting like the sort of toffee flavors, and then it rolls into like a creamy, slightly spicy flavor.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that's the cinnamon and clove.
Yeah.
It's very creamy.
Yeah.
Very creamy. Slight spice and smoke linger in the finish. It's very subtle.
Very subtle.
Very subtle.
Which is how, it's a good way to use the
yeah, they've used the oak, like the American oak, really well here, because that's obviously giving it the strong kind of vanilla-y toffee flavors.
It's just, it feels very oily. But,
yeah, it goes down easy, doesn't it?
Yeah, but it's not like it's got.
Because I can still feel it coating my throat at the end.
It does have quite long legs, if that makes sense.
I can feel it, like even now it feels like it's still coating my throat after I've swallowed it a few seconds ago.
Yeah. We don't want to make it it's not smoky enough for us to be comparing it to Gaviscon, but
well, it'd be like the anti-Gaviscon, wouldn't it? Because Gaviscon is a little fireman going down your throat. So it'd be like a little arsonist.
Yeah.
And then Gaviscon comes in, he's like,
well,
probably slips him a 20 because it keeps him in business.
Yeah, who's been giving this guy heartburn?
Yeah. Cheers.
Like in Gangs in New York, when the firemen set the fire so they can go in and loot the houses.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Cheers, Scon Gavi. Or whatever it'd be. What's Noxivag?
Yeah.
Noxivag. Yeah. Little arsonist going down your throat.
That is very nice.
It is. I'm wondering if it's a little too subtle.
Well, I mean, if they were marketing it as being a peaty whiskey, then I would say some people would be very disappointed.
Yes. No, I was just meaning all its flavours.
It is very subtle, but it's also a very easy drinking dram.
This is one that you could easily have like 3-4 of.
Yeah.
Without realising it. Like, the alcohol, what is it? 46%?
Yeah.
Yeah. You wouldn't notice that, I don't think.
No. You could get yourself in some state if you had a bottle of that sat next to you.
Well, I mean, this is my worry. Once the things start opening and we go to a whiskey festival.
Yeah.
I mean, I got into a state at the last couple. You didn't.
It was just delayed. It came on.
Yeah, you handled it a lot better. Both of them a lot better than I did.
Possibly, yeah.
I think that's the problem. I'm like, I've got to drink what he drinks.
And, I mean, I've been lockdown has probably reduced my stamina. So
I think it's probably increased mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've drank
alone drinking.
Lights off. Yeah. Sat in a corner. Well, I've been drinking every week with my old man. Only a couple of beers, but still more than I used to.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, but yeah, absolutely need to get to a whiskey festival at some point.
There'll be one, I'm sure. So, and as we're entering winter now, so it's unlikely that anyone's going to set one up soon. But as the days start to get longer again,
One thing we do need to do is look at booking a distillery tour, because they're probably booked up for months, all of them.
they all are, yeah. I
So-
told you when I was on Sky,
Yeah.
they were like, "Oh yeah, no, it's got months of backlog."
Mm. Yeah, Balveni's probably booked up for the next 15 years.
Yeah. We'll just have to actually get famous from this podcast to get the tour.
Yeah, come on, lads, try pick up your feet.
Everyone who's watching this, click like.
Like and subscribe. What's going to be like our term for his fan base? You know, like they always say they've got a community.
Yeah.
Like all influencers, we love our community or whatever. What's ours going to be? Like Ayers.
Yeah. Or I'm not sure yet.
We call them the eyes because it's always like the eyes have it or the nays have it, innit, in Parliament.
Yeah.
They're the eyes.
Hello, eyes. Get on the like button.
Yeah. We need more eyes.
Yeah.
Literally.
We need more eyes on this. So boost us up the algorithm.
Like whiskey, YouTube loves eyes on things, so.
Yeah. Even if it's just on the thumbnails.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Would you want to give this one a score?
I quite enjoyed that. I'd probably give that a 4.
A 4? I think I'll go a 3.5. It was good.
Yeah.
But not quite.
I'm worried
amazing.
I might have scored high because I'm just enjoying drinking whiskey. But
yeah, there is definitely that impact because it's been a while. So.
But I thoroughly enjoyed that Dram. So.
Well, each scoring system each scoring event that we do is only contained within that session. Exactly. A 4 from this one cannot be compared to a 4 from the previous one unless we drink them side by side.
Yeah, and then we'll probably do a podcast and tell you why we give them different scores. Okay.
Do an apology video.
Yeah. Get
grown since then, and I realised what I did was wrong, and blah blah blah, all that nonsense. So you gave, to be fair, you gave the Chateau Seasac a 4.5 last time we had it.
Yeah.
I just thought I'd check. I also gave it 4.5 last time.
Oh, you.
I've got more discerning.
Started to. Yeah, that's fair. Do you want to move on?
Yeah, you're up.
Yep. So we're.
Oh wait.
Going a bit.
No, we're not moving on to the third whiskey.
Oh no, we're not moving on to the third whiskey. We almost missed her.
Yeah, I forgot. Do you want to?
I believe you want to have
do you want me to take us on a journey?
We can go on Josh's journey if you would like. Yeah.
Yeah, we can go on a bit of a journey. He says, desperately trying to fill the air as he records the time it started. So actually, it might have made more sense for the journey to go second, but I'll do it now anyway. So, one of the whiskies we've got coming up is from the Ledaig. Well, the brand name is Ledaig, Ledaig, but Gaelic.
Yeah.
Spell things how they want, pronounce them in a different way. The distillery is Tobermory, but they do 6 months of the year they do unpeated Tobermory, and the other 6 months they do heavily peated Ledaig. So I'm looking forward to this one, obviously, because it calls itself heavily peated.
Yeah.
So for a bit of a top trumps run through, Tobermory is the only distillery on the Isle of Mull, which if you look at where Islay and Jura is and then you go north a bit, you'll hit it. It's got 4 wash stills and 4 spirit stills, and it was founded in 1797, 1798, and it's been closed between 1837 and 1879, 1930 and 1972, 1975 and 1980, 1985 and 1989. As well, it was put on hiatus a little bit for upgrades and refurbishment, and started again in 2019. So, as with all most old Scotch distilleries, it's had its periods of upwards and it's had its periods of downs. But hopefully it's back for good. And it's quite a big one. It can produce up to 1 million litres per year. So it's a pretty hefty old distillery.
That's some output.
Yeah. So in 1797, a bloke called John Sinclair was a kelp dealer, I think, because that's a thing. Applied to rent 57 acres near the town of Tobermory, which had been founded about 10 years before that. So he was pretty quick on the draw. But he was denied because at the time, distilling was currently banned in the UK because the UK was pursuing its favourite sport of being at war with France. And all the grain was being saved to feed people because, at war with France. And that's what we like to do. So he was told to build a brewery instead, but he stuck to his original plan, and in 1798, Leipzig Distillery was founded. So that's where this one gets its name from. About 1820, there was a report that they were producing, or they had produced about 6,000 gallons over the previous couple of years. So, they were producing. I couldn't find anything exactly when they started actually producing, given that distilling was banned, and whether they kind of just went against the rules or they waited until one of those temporary periods of peace.
Go ahead and guess that the tax man wasn't a big fan of travelling to Mull in the 1700s or whatever.
Probably could be part off quite easily, I'd have thought. Yeah. And yeah, as I kind of discussed earlier, they have had the problems where they've closed, sometimes obvious reasons. 1930s area, you've got the whole blooming prohibition hit from America impacting exports quite a lot. But they had a weird one, or what I thought was a bit of a weird closure, because they had to cease production in the 1970s because they had a bonded warehouse being built and it got delayed. So because it got delayed, they had no space to store the whiskey they were producing. So they had to stop. And because they stopped producing, they went into receivership. So the place closed down. It's like, you'd have thought you could solve that problem, especially because about 10 years later in the 1980s, they sold all the warehouses anyway to be turned into flats. So they don't do whiskey maturation on site anymore, as a lot of distilleries don't, because you need a lot of space to store casks, especially if you're making 1 million litres a year.
Yeah.
And then in 2013, they were bought by the current owners. They underwent a period of refurbishment and upgrades, and they've been reopened in 2019 and are now going strong. They're using a couple of blends, but they also produce, as I said, 2 kinds of whiskey: unpeated Tobermory whiskey, which they produce for 6 months a year, and the car range is a 10, a 12, and a 23-year-old, and heavily peated Leipzig whiskey, and the car range for that is a 10, an 18, and the no age statement Rioja cask finish. And they also produce a gin throughout the year as well.
Fair enough.
So that is a quick run through of Tobermory Distillery up on the Isle of Mull. Similar story to a lot of the old Scotch ones with the opening and the closing, opening and closing. A lot older than some. And yeah, a bit of an interesting,
a bit of history.
Yeah, a bit of an interesting production cycle, splitting it down the middle.
Yeah.
So now we can move on to the third whiskey, and you'll see why in a bit why probably that was the wrong way to do it. But this is the joy of listening to us live. We're raw and unfiltered, no chill filtering.
Yeah. I suppose we are. Let's try and salvage this organisation and say the reason is because for this whiskey, we're going on one of the furthest journeys we can go on to get a whiskey outside, New Zealand, Australia. We're going to India.
Probably would have made sense to cover this one, yeah. But I was interested in that one.
No, I was just saying
your passive aggressive attack is no.
I'm saying we're going on a Josh's journey now to India as well.
Yeah. Oh no, I've got to do my research.
Yeah,
do your own research.
Don't get your vaccines out.
Do get your vaccines. Vaccines.
Because then once you've all got vaccines, we can start going to distilleries again.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, this is the Amrut Fusion. So this aptly named whiskey from one of India's oldest distilleries is a true meeting of East and West. It's made with both barley grown in India and peated barley from Scotland. There isn't any peat drying barley in India yet. Aged in ex-bourbon barrels, it is surprisingly complex for a non-age statement whiskey, thanks to the local climate in the Himalayan foothills. Interestingly, this is 50%, which I thought was very high for an Indian whiskey, but I guess if it's in the Himalayan foothills, they can probably reduce the temperature a bit. So the nose should be sweet with candy necklaces and love hearts, honeysuckle and sour lemon. Notes of both sweet and flowery apple develop.
Sorry, I was just reading about Amrut on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
So Jim Murray gave it quite high scores and in 2010 named Amrut Fusion as the third best single malt in the world. Now, whether it was, bear in mind this is Wikipedia, so they probably paraphrase it, so whether it was the third best no age statement in the world.
Or whether it was the third best world whiskey in the world.
Yeah, I don't know. But there's an interesting fact here that approximately 20% of its revenue comes from supplying the canteen stores department.
Oh.
Now, what do you think the canteen stores department is?
Don't know.
So it's the branch of the Indian Ministry of Defence that basically runs all the canteens and kitchens and all that in the.
All right. So they
Yeah.
a lot of whiskey.
Oh, but it's yeah. So apparently they do all sorts of stuff, and it's available to active and retired members.
Ah.
So I just thought that was quite interesting.
Bit like the British Legion.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, just selling them whiskey.
Fair enough.
Sorry, that was quite interesting.
Did you get my nose?
Yeah. I was listening, but I was just reading as well.
I'm not sure what candy necklaces and love hearts, but
No, it's sweet, but I'm not sure I get it. Because those are just basically sugar.
yeah, which doesn't really have a pungent smell or anything.
No, it's definitely sweet, but it's not like
It's
sickly sweet.
Maybe get the sort of orchard fruit.
Do you mean Macintosh apples?
So, yeah. You want to go in for a sip and I'll tell you what you should be tasting?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, so on the palate, initial creaminess followed by sweet and sour fruit, apples, crunchy pears, unripe pineapple, mango, and hints of banana. Then sharp clove and gentle peat smoke, with a finish that is very long, sweet and grainy, with damp leaves and licorice.
It is very fruity. Lots of fruit on that. Again, very, very light peat. Hard to detect. It is there in the finish. There is a bit of spiciness, but I don't know how much of that is coming from the fact that this is a 50%, so arguably a cask strength or within that range.
Yeah.
To
be bang on 50% implies potentially.
Yeah.
Not, but.
Yeah, you would say not to be a nice round 50, but it's the heftiest one we've got, I think.
Yeah.
So that will give it some spice, just the alcohol. But no, that's quite pleasant. That's quite nice. Say there's heaps of fruit on there, isn't there?
Definitely. I wouldn't be able to identify them all to the extent of unripe pineapple. But
no, definitely. I'm not going to eat an unripe pineapple to find out either.
I feel like
I could get melon.
Hard to find in the UK.
Well, after Brexit, it'd be hard to find a pineapple. Fruit section will just be potatoes.
We have apples.
Yeah, true. I reckon I can get melon and apple.
Yeah.
It's got like that flat flavour of a melon. And that's not going to make any sense to anyone, but melon has a flat flavour.
Yeah, it's kind of watery.
Yeah. So, what we're going to say, sweet, orchard fruits on the nose, melon, apple. What are you getting?
I'm just mostly getting like it's very like, it's like a numbing spice in the end.
I wonder if that's like a clove spice.
Yeah, that's sort of what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
It
Clove
does say
spice.
cloves.
And a very light peat towards the finish. There is, like I say, after like my third tasting there, I could get it a bit more, but it's still very, very light.
Especially considering the last two have also been peated, so the peat should be building up in our mouths.
But this is what's worrying me, is that we started off with three light ones.
Well, or the other issue is it might be that the peat is building up in our mouth, so the tolerance to peat is building up in our mouth, and therefore at the end we'll be like, this doesn't even taste like it's got any peat in it, and then we'll have it,
like a Lafroig,
a month down the line, and we'll drink it, and we'll be like, oh my god, this is like
so much peat.
What is it called? Seaweed and aeons and smoke, and the whiskey that's just is a blend, but it's just a peat.
Yeah. There's a couple of really heavy peat. In the one that's like Isle of Smoke or something like that, and it's just all the peatiest ones.
Smoke heads as well.
Yeah. There's probably a few that are just sold on being peat monsters.
Yeah. But that one was quite pleasant, I thought.
You've gone through it already?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. No, I like that one. Very tasty.
Yeah. I'm not sure that I get all of the tasty notes, but there are a lot on this one. So.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely get where they're coming from with all the fruit, but I don't know if I could, like you say, just identify them all.
Do you think whoever wrote the palate tasting notes that day had some pineapple that was unripe and was like, oh, and it was just lingering in their head? So when they had this, and they're like, there's lots of fruit flavors in here, and then they were like, that one, probably that unripe pineapple I had today.
Yeah, it's weird because like it doesn't actually taste like that. It just triggers memories, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So when they say things like unripe pineapple, it's like, how have you eaten enough unripe pineapple that is a memory that you can tap into? You must have eaten it more than once. So do you just keep eating unripe pineapples?
Maybe it's like a pregnancy craving or something.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Do you want to give this one a score then?
Yeah, I'd probably go to I'd probably give it like a 3.5, 3.
Which one?
I'll stick with 3.
3?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a 3 is fair. It wasn't quite as nice as the last one, but it was still pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Yeah, to say this has been a peated box.
It's got good scores.
So far, I mean, obviously I'm...
You know what the next one's supposed to be.
Yeah, no. Let me just rinse out my glass. Sorry, listeners. I don't have 6 glasses. I do have 6 glasses, but I can't be bothered.
You've already discussed the...
yeah. Supposedly heavily peated. We'll know when I open it.
Yeah, if you get like knocked out and I have to carry the rest of the podcast on my own.
You'd be used to that. Carrying it. You're my mum's favourite presenter.
Best out of 2. That's what.
Yeah, she's like, why can't you be like more like him? It's like,
oh. Now I get why you don't go home so often.
Do you bring David with you? No, you can get out.
I'm quite interested for this next whiskey, by the way, just because it's a
Rioja cask finish. You might like this.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Very pink.
It is very pink. Rioja's, I want to say it's a red wine, is it?
It is, yeah. But it seems to have given a lot of colour.
Okay, so this is the Leipzig, which, if you were listening, is the place we went to on a Josh's Journey Sinclair series Rioja cask finish. So when we were talking about the core range of a 10 and 18 in a Rioja cask, this is one of them. So here you go. Peated whiskey is often aged in plainer casks as complex flavours can fight with smoke. Good. They didn't say good. But great exceptions exist, like this vibrant new entry from Isle of Mull distillery, Tobermory. Leipzig, pronounced Leipzig, no, on their website it says Let's Ick. So sorry, Chris, you've got it wrong. Is their heavily peated, punchier label. This release was first aged in ex-bourbon with a finish in Spanish Rioja red wine casks, providing the spice and colour. The notes of Turkish delight and rose petals. Well, that's Turkish delight. Turkish delight is made with rose water. Balanced with candied fruits and grapes, followed by rich leather and peppery spice. See, this is the thing, right? Yeah. Every other tasting, other than peat, is like, oh, it tastes like caramel. Tastes like, you know. And then peat comes through, it's like, oh, yeah, it tastes like old shoes.
Yeah.
Tastes like leather. Tastes like wood glue. It's like, well, these are not good tastes.
Tastes like old shoes, but that you've dropped some spices on.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does actually have a rose petally smell, like a Turkish delight kind of perfumey smell.
There's some peat there. Not a lot of peat. It's not like overly peated, but there is quite. This is by far the strongest peated one.
Yeah. I definitely do smell the sort of leather.
Yeah.
In there.
Yeah, there is definite leather in that. Go on then. In you go. So, creamy mouthfeel packed full of almonds, barley, and sweet malt, giving way to black raspberries, vanilla and cocoa, cinnamon spice, and hints of freshly cut grass. The finish, lingering smoky finish with red fruit, and sea spray. Go on then. Give me a warning.
It's all in the finish.
Okay. Right, I'm going in. So tell us what you tasted.
It was very creamy in the mouth. I made a mistake and I took like a double sip by accident. Like I just timed it wrong. And my mouth was quite full of whiskey there.
Oh, there he goes.
But it's very creamy, vanilla, all of these kind of cocoa-y, custardy notes in, or what I got whilst it was on the palate. I didn't get like the grass or the like the fruit so much. I'll try again in a minute. I need a second to recuperate after drinking way more than I meant to in the first go. But yeah, the end is smoke. Yeah. It has got a little bit of a salt to it, but mostly smoke.
Yeah.
It's lingering as well. It's a long finish.
Yeah. And and it is a leathery smoke. That one makes me think of like.
Yeah, but it's not. At least it's not lingering, and it's like medicinal.
It's not medicinal, which is the worst. Yeah. This is a bit more grounded, but it's like it makes me think of like a booth in an old diner.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it's taking me for some reason. Not like I've tasted it, but that's just like the thing it's conjuring up.
Or like a wing back in a gentleman's smoking club.
Yeah, like an old pub or whatever, where you can tell people have been smoking. So you got it lingering.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, it is very creamy to begin, like you say.
In the mouth, it's two different flavors.
Well, it's very inoffensive, isn't it? But it's weird. Yeah, it's a real dichotomy of a whiskey. This one, the taste and the finish, complete polar opposites.
I'm struggling to get anything other than the smoke because it's lingering so long. But when I had another sip there, I did get like
see some water will clear up.
Maybe a blackberry more than a black raspberry, like a tart.
What the hell is a black raspberry?
I don't know. Or like a bramble, maybe. Is more what I'm thinking.
Yeah. To get anything like that because the finish comes in quite quickly.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to taste it in my mouth before I swallow, but as I say, like now my mouth is just peaked. I feel like I need like an apple or something to like clear my palate.
It is strong peat as well. That.
Yeah. I don't hate it though.
I never hate it.
All in the end.
I feel like it's if you took the finish out, I quite like it.
Yeah.
I don't think the finish adds anything. I think it's just a negative.
Like
Like
to now try a Rioja finished non-peated from the
like a
same
Tobamori.
Tobamori.
Mm.
Just
Gah.
to compare, that would be pretty good, I think. But
Yeah, agreed. Just doesn't end.
very slow legs on this.
You and your legs.
Just because it's so creamy, I was just wanting to test it. And
They've all been quite creamy, these, aren't they, to be fair?
yeah, it's well pink though. Like when you get down to like your last sip and you swirl it around the glass, it is just
Yeah, it's not even like whiskey usually goes like a deep red, doesn't it? Like a ruby.
yeah.
This is just pink.
Yeah, it looks
It's like a rosé. Yeah. Ah.
It's very smoky.
Oh.
We might need to discuss. Oh well, actually, it's perfectly timed because we've got a segment after we do the scores. So
You know the annoying thing about peat lingering finish for me? It makes me think of old books.
Yeah.
And I really like old books. And I'm worried that eventually I'm going to get such an association between peated whiskey and old books, I'm going to not like old books anymore.
What you got to keep your fingers crossed for is that it goes the other way. And your affinity
No.
for old books makes
What
you
would I
actually
do?
love peat.
What would I do if I started to like peat?
Right. Scores. Obviously, I'm expecting you to be deducting maybe a whole point for the smoke.
Scores.
Yeah.
Go on. What do you like to give it? And then,
I'd like to give that a 3.5.
I mean, you're right.
What?
I obviously deducting a whole point.
Yeah, you're going 2.5.
2.5.
Yeah. See, I think if it wasn't for the finish, you'd have probably been where I was.
Yeah, definitely.
So.
Like I say, the finish just ruined it for me.
Yeah. I thought that might be the case.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just such a disappointment here, Anna. You're like getting an advanced whiskey drinker and be like, oh yeah, this is, this is just light peat, medium peat, and it's all right. This, and blah, blah.
Starting to get into it, yeah.
And then I'm like, it's got peat in it. It's a 2.
You're not catching up. One day.
No, it's good. We cover the spectrum. You
Yeah.
cover every whiskey, including peated whiskey, and I cover every whiskey except peated whiskey.
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah. I don't know what I cover that you don't, but
you buy a lot more. You actually keep the industry going.
Yeah, keep the Yorkshire distillery going.
Yeah.
They've done a peated release.
Have they?
Yeah.
Have you bought it?
No.
Are you gonna?
No. I've tasted it.
When they no longer collecting every release.
No. I decided before they did that, to be fair.
Is this when they started doing like 2 or 3 a year? And you're
they just do so many, and I just can't keep up. Yeah. But they did a tasting set, and it was one of them in the tasting set. So then I was like, all right, well, I've tasted it, and it's very lightly peated, but I've tasted it. I'm not a huge fan, so I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna pick up. But there was one they just released. I'm trying to, because they release them constantly. Oh, it was an IPA finish. That was it, and I was really tempted by that.
Oh, that sounds pretty good.
Problem with Yorkshire whiskey is it's nice. It's like
good
a 3,
water.
3.5, maybe a 4 at its best.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like 60 quid for the flagship is 55 quid. If I bought a 55 quid bottle of scotch, I could do better than that.
That's my dog saying hello.
Hey, bear. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could get a really nice bottle of scotch for 55 quid.
Yeah.
And that's not saying that it's not a good whiskey, because it is. But I still think the price point is too high. I think it's time.
It's time for a whiskey talk.
Time for a whiskey talk.
Whiskey bark, as we've just.
Whiskey bark.
That's it. So, yeah, it's the first time we've had a purely peated box, so I'm going to do a whiskey talk about peat in whiskey. So for many people, smokiness and Scotch whiskey are synonymous, for better or for worse, which, isn't really true, but, if you were to canvass a lot of people, you'd probably get a lot of people say a lot about the smokiness, and that's its sort of pop culture vibe, if you want. So whilst there is an abundance of whiskey without a hint of smoke, the polarizing characteristic is an enduring feature in many distilleries, especially those in the Highlands and Islands. That be it the heavily peated flavors of the Isla Peat Beasts, or the Balvenie run a peat week, and as we've seen, Benromac have a lightly peated dram, and you also get other styles like peated cask finishes for maybe some places that can't get a hold of peated barley. They want to. I say barley, yeah.
Yeah.
They maybe want to get the flavor somehow, so they'll just take a cask which has previously held peated whiskey, and they'll get the flavor out of it that way. But anyway, it seems that smoke is here to stay. So for the most part, the peat is the component that provides that smoke. There are, I think, some whiskies that have charred barrels that have a smokiness to them with no peat actually present, but for the most part in whiskey, it's from peat. Not an ingredient as such, but something that forms part of the malting process and imparts a lot of its flavor. Peat itself is essentially young coal. It's decomposed organic matter that's been compressed over the aeons, and then it forms a sort of loose, soily kind of brick that is called peat, and it can be burned. For a long time, peat was the most abundant and readily available fuel source in Scotland. Estimates put it at roughly a quarter of the country's land mass is covered by peat. That's according to Heritage Scotland, and most of that coverage is in the Highlands and the Islands, which sort of explains why the Highland and Island styles of Scotch are the ones that predominantly have the peaty, smoky characteristics.
Is that tied to like a lack of available wood as well, or is it just they picked peat because they chose that, if you know what I mean? Was it a choice, or was it something they were forced down?
I think it's just you go outside, dig it up and put it in the fire. It's a lot easier than chopping down trees.
Yeah, fair enough.
Some places it's the top layer is burnable, the middle layer there's like 5 or 6 layers of types of peat you can get, and it's all usable. So some places you can literally go out, essentially take off the topsoil, and then everything under that is a burnable fuel source. Which, if you're a crofter who lives in the Highlands, nowhere near anywhere else, and your options are go out with your axe and chop down a tree, or put your spade in the ground, and one's a 5-minute job and one's a day. So,
yeah.
And then you've got to dry it out and chop it as well, to be fair, for woods. So I think you have to dry out peat as well, to be honest.
You toast it, I think, don't you?
Yeah. But anyway, that's all very good, but you might be thinking, it's a fuel source. How does it end up in my whiskey? I hope they're not, adding kerosene to my drinks or whatever. But the way it gets in is that the peat flavour is imparted at the malting stage. So with malted barley, you soak the barley, which starts the germination process, and then once it's malted like that, to stop it, you have to heat it up, and that essentially kills it and stops the malting. And the way that that's done in most, or traditionally was done in most distilleries, was in a kiln. They would stock up put the wet malted barley in the kiln, and then they would burn a fuel source in the middle to heat it up. And as the most abundantly available fuel source was peat, that was the one that was used most often. And peat burns with a especially aromatic smoke. So this aromatic smokiness would then dry out and kill off the germinating barley, and then you get your peated malt, as they would say, and that's where the flavor comes from. So the flavor is already imparted before you even mill the grains. So that's essentially when the flavor comes in, and the rest of it is essentially history. Now, I could go on for a long time because, as we've mentioned already in this podcast, there's medicinal peat, and there's salty peat, and there's tire fires and smoked meats and all of these flavors, and they all come from the different compositions of the peat across different geography. So obviously there's different organic matter that creates the peat. So I believe one of the main components of the sort of medicinally floral one is heather, but we could go into each and every one of them and how all of these things affect the flavour of peat, but I need to keep something aside in case the Dram Team come back with another smoke box. So I'm going to call it there for the day and just let you know this is why your whiskey is smoky.
Yeah, that's interesting, and it's because I think everyone is aware of, or anyone who's into whiskey a little bit is aware of peated whiskey.
Yeah.
And they're aware of what peat is.
Yeah.
But I bet most people couldn't say how the peat gets into the whiskey.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you.
Burn it in and it gets absorbed as the stuff dries.
It was a good lesson.
Yeah. And then I believe it's on to me to talk about the next whiskey.
From your favourite country.
Oh, of course.
Everyone's favourite country.
Yeah. Have you ever met anyone who hates the English? Yeah. Fortunately, that is also the UK's national anthem, so you really should get your own. But
we've got our own. You can get your own when you go independent in the next 2 to 3 years.
Everyone else has their own.
You got Rose of Scotland, is that yours?
Flower of Scotland.
What?
Flower of Scotland.
Flower of Scotland. Yeah. I like God Save the Queen. It's good. She likes Scotland.
Yeah, no, but that's what I'm saying. It's the UK's national anthem, so England should have their own national anthem.
Don't know what ours would be. Land of Hope and Glory, probably.
Probably Chariots, isn't it?
No, you can't have
all
that.
These things. So.
I don't know if you can have Swing Low Sweet. You could have Land of Hope and Glory, or you could have Rule Britannia, I guess.
That's Britain again.
Yeah, but Britain's England.
That's not how it works.
No, because it is. Because when you
Britain
think
is
about
an island that England is on.
Yeah, but when you think about it, all the blame for the stuff that the British did.
Yeah.
The British Empire.
Hey, just don't check my own privilege.
Yeah, exactly. So all the stuff that the British Empire did falls on England. So we're claiming it. We'll take that, but we get to keep all the cool stuff that Britain did as well.
Yeah, but it kind of gets annoying when you're in England. I was in.
You don't get to claim Scotland pulled more than its fair share, which I would say it did.
Yeah, no,
but then it also did more than its fair share of the atrocities we committed.
Anything pretty much committed by special forces is probably
I think Scotland's disproportionately made up as armed forces for a long time. So anything that's been anything that's done by the British military as an atrocity, which is probably quite a long list. There's been a few jocks there, probably called Jock.
Yeah. I was going to say, so there was a time one time I went to London and someone asked us where we were from, and we said Edinburgh, and they said, "Oh, where is that? Is that just above Newcastle?" And we said, "Yes, it's in Scotland." And she was like, "But isn't Scotland a foreign country?" And I was like, "I actually don't even know how to answer that, but your lack of knowledge of that in the UK with your education."
It's not even that far away. You know what?
Yeah. It's a 4-hour train away.
You know what is a foreign country?
What?
London.
Yeah, that's the problem.
We can sack off London. Keep Scotland. Sack off London.
That's probably fair. If you just went anywhere north of the M25, that could
just get a big saw, cut around the M25,
Yeah.
push them out into the flowing sea, and we'll just have a really cool lake there instead.
Oh no, Essex would have to go with them just for this.
Well, we've got to push them out in some direction, so we'll just push them through Essex.
Yeah. But as you might not have guessed, guys, this whiskey is from the English Whiskey Company. Which this is all banter, really. Actually, the English have got some good whiskies. So.
You're part English.
Yeah, no. That's why I get away with it.
Yeah, I can say I'm part Scottish, so I get away with it as well.
Yeah.
And more than like an American, I'd like to point out, I'm not claiming it like an American does. It was like, oh, I'm Scottish, and they're like, you ever been to Scotland? No. Yeah. But my great granddad once like visited Scotland.
Yeah. No, your name is actually derived from a Scottish name.
I am actually quarter Scottish on my dad's side.
But you actually have got
third generation. Which is about as far as you're allowed to take it, I'd say.
Yeah, well, that's how it counts for international sports, isn't it?
Yeah. So, anything further, and then you're taking the piss. Oh.
And my dad's English, so that's...
Yeah. You're half English.
Yeah, a full half.
So only half Scottish.
If you actually got grandparents, I'm 3/4 English, but we don't talk about that.
Oh.
But if you go further back than that, then I get quite Irish, so it's like one of those ones with it.
You're very English then, because you're like a mix of all of them.
Yeah. But anyway.
Yes.
Before we expose too much about ourselves.
Yeah.
Before we say this as if we aren't currently still working towards getting set up for.
We haven't told what we're getting set up for.
Yeah, for becoming social media superstars as well.
Yeah.
But the next whiskey is from the English. It just says the English, but I'm pretty sure it's the English Whiskey Company, isn't it?
Yeah, it's St. George's Distillery. It's the English Whiskey Company. I think they've got a few brands, but yeah, I don't agree that they can just call themselves the English. There's like 33 distilleries in England now.
Yeah. So the English, and it's called Smoky because why not just
run? They've just shortened it. Everything. The English Whiskey Company becomes the English.
Yeah.
And the whiskey is just Smoky.
Yeah. So joining AMRA and proving that Scots aren't the only ones capable of producing exceptional smoky whiskey are the English Whiskey Company, whose St. George's Distillery in Norfolk is the oldest English whiskey distillery, founded back in the heady days of 2006. While they might be relatively young compared to the bastions of peated Scotch whiskey making, this dram firmly and tastily makes a strong case as an alternative tipple for even the most diehard of Islay fans. On the nose, a gentle aroma with hints of vanilla, aniseed, and ginger. No mention of smoke again. So.
No, there's definitely smoke there on the nose.
Oh, it's got that sort of
campfire smell.
Yeah. Also it does have a little bit of the books.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd say old books and campfire on the nose.
I sort of can maybe get what they mean by ginger.
You reckon?
More like gingerbread, but...
Oh. No, still... I think I'm just more sensitive to smoke. Go on then. Here we go.
On a palate, a creamy palate, a little peat initially, and then the smoke bomb. Boom. Then the finish is long, spicy, and smoky. So basically, it's kind of creamy and then it's smoke. And they're not even bothering with anything else. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, they're not wrong. I'd say that was less peated than the previous one, especially in the finish.
But has less other flavours.
Yeah, it's literally just... This is designed to just be a peated taste.
So the other one, the last two actually, when it's in your mouth, it's not smoky. It's when you swallow. This one, when it's in your mouth, it's smoky.
Yeah, it's just... I think this one is designed... I mean, it's called Smoky.
Yeah.
No other flavours.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one's the hard one to talk about.
It is creamy. But
it is creamy. But
I'm going to try and pick something out, but I'm basically fishing here, so let's just say that it's tentative, whatever I come up with here.
maybe. I'm trying to think. Not condensed milk. What's the other one? Like carnation?
Yes, condensed milk. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
No.
that.
Yeah, condensed milk. Now I'm doubting myself.
Yeah, it's evaporated milk. You know, that kind of like sweeter.
Yeah.
That kind of. That's what that creaminess reminds me of to begin with.
I could give you that.
And then it's just peat, but there's definitely kind of a condensed milk.
That my mouth is just filled with peat smoke flavour.
Yeah.
It tastes very alcoholic.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Like,
it's
you
weird.
know, like that. If you've ever had one too many, as a student, you've been out and you've been drinking spirits with a sugary mixer, and you have one too many, and all you can taste, you can no longer taste the Coke or the Iron Brew or even the orange juice. All you taste is the fact that there's alcohol in it, and it's your body's way of saying you are poisoning me to death. Stop.
Yeah.
There is a bit of that in here. I'm not saying it's a negative. I'm just saying I'm aware of the alcohol.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, it's weird because it's a very one-note whiskey, I think, by design.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not meaning that as a criticism, but then it's not that heavily peated.
No, I've definitely had peat here.
Yeah. So it's weird to me that, you know, they say it's a peat bomb or whatever, the smoke bomb. It's like, no, I don't think it is. I wouldn't call that a smoke bomb.
I guess what they've done is they've taken away everything else so that all you can focus on is the smoke. But
yeah, but I feel like
that's not the same as going for like hundreds of parts, thousands of parts per million or whatever.
I feel like they've not compensated enough for the lack of other flavours.
Mm-hmm.
Personally. Do you want to give this one a score?
I give it like a 2.
Yeah, I'm going to go 1.5.
Only because the first step tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah. I mean, well, I was never going to give this one a big score because it was designed to just be smoke, and I don't like to taste smoke. So
yeah,
I can't even, like, with the others, I can cling on to the other flavours. This doesn't have another flavour because by design, it's just not a whiskey for me by design.
Mm-hmm.
There are no bad, well, there are bad whiskies. I wouldn't say that was a bad whiskey. I would just say that was a whiskey that is aiming at a niche that I'm not in.
Yeah, we say there's no bad whiskies, but the Tesco Special Reserve, aged 3 years in oak.
The older special.
Yeah. Now we probably have to.
Mind, they can do better than that now because English whiskey doesn't have to be done in oak.
Yeah, but it said Scotch, so.
Yeah, I know. So, but they could just call it British whiskey.
Yeah.
And then you know it's done in plastic instead, or inert casks, I think they're called. But
they could call it Scotchish.
Near Scotch.
Yeah.
Newcastle.
At some times in history.
Newquay Brown. Yeah, make it in Doncaster. Technically Scotch.
Yeah.
There you go. Do you want me to introduce us to the last one?
Yeah, go for it. We're finally hitting the home.
Oh, the home of Pete. Yeah. So this is one from that boutique Whiskey Co. It's a Brick, which, if you know anything, is from Islay. Batch 15, 11-year-old. And the card goes as follows. We've thrown a little curveball in for our 6th dram. This single malt is from a famous Islay distillery, but one better known for its unpeated whiskey than its smoke, Brick. This rare indie release was aged in an ex-bourbon cask and is a wonderful example of the subtle end of our smoky spectrum. Top tip, if you're a true smokehead, try their Port Charlotte or Octomore releases.
Yeah, I've heard about Octomore. It's like...
I think we've done a Port Charlotte at some point. I don't know.
Probably not theirs.
No.
If they're saying it's a smokehead one.
Might have done it. Yeah, but I think when we at the Stramash or whatever, we just drank it.
Oh, yeah, probably, yeah. We might have had it then.
And then I was just like, this is crap.
So, not to besmirch Brewcladdick's good name, but one of the first whiskies I ever had was the Laddie, which is like one of their main ones. Comes in a big teal tin.
Right.
But and that was before I worked out that I liked whiskey, and it was I really didn't like that whiskey.
No,
And
I mean that's fair. I've had whiskies that I don't like.
But this was when I was like maybe like 20,
and
I had no sort of developed palate on this thing, and I was aware of bourbon, but usually with a mixer, and I had this whiskey, and I was just like, oh, that's not a spirit for me.
Yeah.
So the point I was bringing up with this is that if you've had a whiskey and you haven't liked it, I don't know why you would be listening to our podcast to this point, but if you've somehow ended up in the rabbit hole and this is where you are, try a different one, because really whiskey being considered its own, being considered a spirit in the same way that rum or gin is, I feel but rum or vodka, we'll say, I feel it's almost an insult to whiskey, because the variety in whiskey is so high compared to it almost deserves to be its own category out with of all the other spirits.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that.
Because if you get a tequila, you know what you're getting.
Yeah, and especially something like a strong liquor is always going to either be, if it's not good, it's going to be really, really bad.
Yeah.
Because alcohol in high percentages is not particularly pleasant.
No, it needs some kind of flavour.
Yeah, so if you've got one that tastes pretty bad, the alcohol will take it all the way from tastes pretty bad to this is the worst thing I've ever tasted.
Yeah. And I wouldn't even say that the Laddie is something that tastes bad. It's just that it wasn't a flavour profile. I might even like it now, but at the time I was not ready for it.
Well, until I met you, I mean, the only whiskies I'd really had was like Bell's and JD and stuff like that. And they're, no offense to Bell's and JD, but they're pretty rank.
Blends which are for mixing, or for old people to drink as a, no insult for they're what the old man at the bar has. He has a half of bitter,
mild,
cheap whiskey and a glass of water, and that's his three. Those are the three drinks he's going to have for the entire night.
And he's drank them that many times. It's like people who drink, if you drink Foster's or John Smith's or Tennant's as your number one drink, it's because that's all you drink. Yeah. So you just got to like it.
Sometimes a cheap bottom rung lager is fine if it's a hot sunny day, but at this stage in my life, I would probably much rather move up and drink something Belgian, But,
or
French,
Even if you're at like a Spoons or whatever, there's generally something better. Not much, but
they have Spoons are. I mean, not to try and advertise for them, because their business.
They usually have a few guest ales.
But they have the guest ales always, and they have they have a proper bar. They have proper taps that you have to pump.
You can usually get a Doom Bar or something like that.
And they always have either a Doom Bar or a Snakehead or whatever.
I just wish Landlord travelled better, because Landlord's great in the north, but down south it's just.
Oh, it's the same with like Tribute and that. It's good.
Yeah.
It's not great.
Yeah, they don't travel.
Yeah. Some of them do. Doom Bar obviously does alright.
Doom Bar travels, yeah. Yeah. Landlord just gets better and better as you get closer and closer to where it's from.
This is the classic Guinness fable, isn't it? It's not Guinness unless you drink it in Dublin within 2 miles of the Guinness factory. Everywhere else it's
Yeah. I'd like to try a Guinness actually, because I've tried Guinness like over here and it's just not great, but I'd like to try it. I would definitely give it a go if I was over there.
Oh, I drank a lot of Guinness in Dublin, and I don't normally like it, so.
There you go. We're going to have to go to Dublin at some point just for the distillery tours.
We've got to go to one in particular.
Yeah, indeed. Do you want to drink the last whiskey?
We should probably drink it and end this before everyone else does.
Yeah. So the nose. Subtly floral at first, with orange blossom and fresh barley, soon becoming rich in honey, wood spice and leather add depth.
This does have like a very
floral, orangey,
like a hunt, but the honey.
Yeah, there's definitely a honey note in the background.
It's not caramel or toffee. It's more like honey or maybe agave.
Oh, agave is a good shout. I like that. Yeah.
It's a sweet, but it's like an
Like
ichor
plant
more
sweet.
than a processed sugar.
Yeah, it's like a plant sweet, like an agave. Yeah, and we're all about eco over here, so we take your honey.
Yeah. I mean, honey's good for the bees.
Yeah, and bees are the best insect.
Bees are very important.
Yeah. If you don't like bees, I'll kill you.
That's why there's a whole big thing, isn't there, about veganism and whether honey is vegan, because you're taking a byproduct.
Yeah, it depends how it's done. I think it depends how it's done. If you it's the same as everything.
Unethically take, but
if you're factory farming it and you're making it, crap for the bees, fine. But if you're just some like local blooming beekeeper,
I feel like even Rouse is like who I would consider to be like one of the biggest honey producers in the UK. I feel like even they are probably providing a decent enough life for the bees.
Yeah.
But if you're coming at it from a vegan point of view, locally sourced honey that's the guy's pets basically.
Yeah. No, I think
he's
honey's
got to get
rid
of the honey or they'll die.
I think honey's one of those animal products that generally there's not an ethical quandary with.
Yeah.
Which is quite rare. It's like wool.
Yeah. They need it to be sheared, so you.
Yeah. I mean, have we bred sheep to the point that, basically we have to shear them? Probably, but we can't undo that. So yeah, but it's not like meat or whatever where you're like, okay, we're still murdering them.
Yeah.
Or dairy products where it's like, yeah, okay, we get them pregnant and then take the calves away and then.
But then hormonally keep them in the same place until.
Yeah. We're diving into some deeps. Let's drink some whiskey. Christ. Yeah. Right, have a drink. You should be getting salted butter on crumpets, sticky toffee and stem ginger, blueberry muffins, citrus peels, and a touch of red chili powder. And the taste is drying malt, thyme, sea salt, vanilla ice cream, and caramel sauce. Do you get all of those things separately?
Not at all. I'm gonna have to get the card out. I've put them away. I get a butteriness. That's the only one that I can.
There's a slight spiciness to it.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the chili powder.
So basically, what happened was you said, salted butter on crumpets, and I was like, oh, that sounds delicious. I wish I had some crumpets. And then by the time I finished that thought, I heard, what was that?
I don't like crumpets.
Oh no, I like crumpets.
See, crumpets. So okay, I don't dislike crumpets because of the flavour.
Yeah.
Right. I dislike crumpets because if you look at them, you're like, this is going to be amazing because it's like,
full of flavours.
It's like a dense but fluffy cloud, and I'm going to put loads of butter on it. It's going to soak in. It's going to be great, and they're just not that good.
The butter just soaks right through because there's just a big hole.
And you're just like, you had so much. It's like Anakin Skywalker, right?
If you chuck some jam on it, though, that's a different game.
He had so much promise. It's like if Anakin Skywalker didn't kill the younglings, but just became like a middle-ranking knight.
Yeah.
He's like, he had so much promise, and he didn't quite. And it's just like.
If you put jam on a crumpet, though, it doesn't soak through and it stays in all the pockets.
I just feel like if you could have a crumpet,
it's like eating a pillow full of jam.
Just get a Scotch pancake, and that's better.
Well, madly enough, until maybe the mid-90s in Scotland, when you went to buy crumpets, Scotch pancakes were called crumpets in Scotland.
I knew I liked Scotland for a reason.
Because my dad asked my mum to get crumpets when they were newly married, and she went out and bought the packet which said crumpets on it, and they were Scotch pancakes. And my dad was like, "What the hell are these?"
Closest to divorce you've ever been.
Yeah.
I said crumpets.
My mum was like, "It says crumpets on the packet. Those are crumpets." And my dad was like, "No, but okay."
Damn this.
And then Warburton came along, and we're like, "No, this is an actual crumpet." And everyone was like, "Oh, that makes sense."
You know what is class with jam?
But
scone.
Very good, but we end up in a position where, what do you put on first? I don't put cream on my scone because I'm not an arsehole.
What's wrong with you? Like a scone with butter, jam, and cream is the best thing ever.
Don't need the cream.
Why would you not put cream on anything? I'd put cream on everything if I could. I'd put cream on like my sausages.
I don't have time to whip cream to make a scone.
But cream is like clotted cream is like the best thing ever. It's like, it's what God would eat.
I suppose.
like when people say, about going back to this previous conversation about dairy industry and how it's deplorable that we're basically stealing babies from animals and then injecting them with hormones and basically constantly torturing them to produce milk and butter and that.
Yeah.
It's a really strong argument until they say, yeah, and if we stop this, we'd have no cream. And then I'm like, nah, I don't care. I'll steal the cows myself.
Yeah.
I won't actually do that. I don't think I could. But cream is really, really good.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I really want a scone now. Right. What do you get any of these flavors? Why are you not getting thyme and dry malt and?
I got butter, and then I just had another.
You got butter. That's the first one.
I got some citrus.
But you get pears, don't you?
And I get saltiness in the finish. I don't get pears.
Not good enough.
But I've not got enough left to find all these flavors. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like you need a full bottle to get all this.
Yeah, Chris, start sending us like a 70 centiliter 6 dram.
Yeah.
It's very creamy. There's definitely butteriness in there. I don't get any ginger or blueberries. Citrus peels, maybe a bit of zest. Yeah, there's a spiciness to it, so I can see the chili powder. It is quite dry at the end, but I'm not sure I get malt. No. And maybe that's a sea salt. I don't get any vanilla ice cream with caramel sauce.
In the very end of like the finish, I can potentially get some kind of carameliness. There's a sweetness in there that isn't coming through until everything else is fading away, but it's very tentative.
Okay. At the very end. Okay.
That's quite nice. I'd like to try a lot more of that, but
yes, it was a very nice one. That. Would you want to give this one a score?
I'll go for like a 3.5, I think, with that one.
And I will go for a 4.
Yeah, it was close. It was in between.
Yeah, it was very. It's difficult to judge those ones. If we'd had a 25, hint.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Be easier to judge. Right, we have gone way over.
As always, but there's a big chunk of time to be cut out, so.
There's a couple of minutes, not a lot.
Yeah, big chunk.
A big chunk. But, it's been a while since we've done this. We're trying to get back into the swing of it, trying to find space in our busy social calendars to up us game and deliver the content we know that you're all crying out for. So bear with us. If you've born with us this far, born with us, bared with us, I don't know. Yeah.
Or
bar with us, whichever. If you've hung on this far, give us a little bit longer. We're right on the cusp of some greatness.
Yeah.
And then you'll get to say you've been with us since. We're like a fine whiskey. We take some time in wood to age.
Yeah. But not too long, because otherwise it can, the wood takes over.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you become Dracula.
Yeah.
So on that note.
Yeah.
Thank you all for listening.
Yeah. Thanks for coming along.
And we shall see you in the next podcast, hopefully soon.
Yep.
Bye everyone.